I don't think so.
Doubt? Another unmistakable sign of the... No, you're doomed. Run for your life before I kill again!
So as you can probably already tell, it's Christmas time. And Christmas time for me has always been a time to sit down and watch Christmas movies. And there's some good ones, and there's some not so good Christmas movies out there. But I'm mostly just going to talk about the good ones. And so today we're going to talk about How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Then the remake, the live action starring Jim Carrey, directed by Ron Howard. So, you all know the story. The Grinch, he hates Christmas, and he wants to steal it. He wants to take everything and make the Who's down in Whoville all sad and take away their Christmas. And it was based off a book that was based off a TV special, which is based off a book. So, and those aren't very long. So they had to make an entire movie out of like a 30-minute little cartoon. And I actually think they did a pretty reasonable job, because they didn't change anything from the original. They just added a little bit of backstory kind of to it. And it's kind of unnecessary if you really think about it. You know, you could just start where the cartoon starts off and it would be perfectly fine, but it's kind of hard to make a long movie out of that. And so some people might find the first like half of the movie boring or not interesting, kind of pointless, but others might find it just entertaining and fun. And it kind of does contribute to the end a little bit, but yeah. So going into this review, it's kind of hard because I've watched this movie every Christmas since I was like 2 probably, and my whole family has always really liked it, and I've liked it since I was a little kid. So it's kind of a little hard for me to go into this reviewing it honestly, and not just reviewing it because I've always liked it my whole life. Because if I had just seen this movie for the first time, I'd probably go and say, oh, this is fine, it's okay, I don't know, it wasn't that great. I'd probably be more something like that. But since I've seen it, since I've grown up with it, it's one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I really enjoy it. So I'll try and be somewhat, not try and, let all that get in the way. So, here we go. So this movie was actually nominated for 2 Oscars, I believe. It was nominated for, I'm pretty sure 2 Oscars. It was nominated for Best Makeup and Best Set Design, I believe. And I think that was actually, they were well-deserved nominations, because the set design, I've seen kind of some things of the behind the scenes, and they had to create this whole different world and make some really crazy buildings and crazy sets and stuff, and I think they did a pretty good job. And the makeup, all the Who's, the makeup for them, I thought is fine, is good. But the thing that was really probably the best thing this movie did was the makeup for the Grinch and Jim Carrey, because that looks great. And not only does it look great, but they did it in a way that Jim Carrey could really use. You could see his facial expressions, because I watched one of the behind the scenes of this, and they were saying, how Jim Carrey has such, a lot of his acting is his facial expressions, and that's kind of part of his personality. And so when they were going to put him in this Grinch costume, they had to find a way to be able to have him be able to do all that but look convincing, and they did a great job of the makeup in this movie, and so it definitely deserved the Oscar nomination. I don't know if it won, but yeah, the makeup is they did a really good job, and the costumes and everything, I think it all looks pretty good. Cinematography wise, it was really weird. There was, if you don't know what a Dutch angle is, it's just basically when the camera is tilted slightly, sometimes more. So it can be used times to make things feel like a little uneasy, you know, type. You know, it can be used effectively. But for some reason in this movie, they use it for random shots and stuff, and I'm just like, why are you using a Dutch tilt right there? Why? Because that has nothing to do with anything. So it's just a little distracting, and I don't know why they would do that. That's the only kind of nitpick about that. And so overall, the movie, the acting, it's a little over the top by pretty much everybody, especially Jim Carrey. Now, Jim Carrey, he does a good job with the Grinch, I think, and he is a little over the top, and I can see how some people would get annoyed very quickly or think he's, you know, this is not his best role, and it definitely isn't. But, you know, for some reasons, I've always thought it was kind of funny. Especially the scene where he's just trying to scare Cindy Lou Who, and he's just crazy. I don't know. It's stupid, and it's a little overacting, but it's funny for some reason. And everyone else, the mayor, he's not very good. Cindy Lou Who's not bad for a kid, and everybody else just really overacts. But it kind of has a little charm to it, you know. It's kind of makes it feel a little different, and I actually kind of don't mind sometimes. It kind of, you know, gives it a little personality when they overact so much. But and for the story wise, you know, the last half, of course, is a classic story. Everybody knows the Grinch. But in the beginning, like I said earlier, it's kind of unnecessary. But the overall theme, you know, I think is actually, it's a dumb movie, but I feel like it has a semi-good message. You know, of course, there's the main message of, you know, Christmas doesn't need to be all commercialized, and it's not about the presents and the lights, and that's a great message, and I think a lot of people forget that, and they need to be reminded about that. And I think in this movie it does it well, but it does it different from the cartoon, and I can see why. It almost feels like this one did it wrong, because everybody is upset at first when he steals the presents and stuff, and in the cartoon they already knew that's not what Christmas was about. But and that was good in the original, but here I feel like it's a little bit more, you know, you really get, because in the first half of the movie they really drill in that how commercial these people take it. Everything, you know, another minute closer to Christmas, we all gotta shop, you know. It's crazy, and that's how it kind of feels nowadays. And they're all very Christmases, like presents and everything, Christmas, and they have to really realize, you know, once it all is taken away, they kind of need to start realizing. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but you know, I feel like they did a good job with that. You know, some people might say the cartoon is better because they already knew, but I feel like when they're so over here on what it's about, and they need to get over here, and they eventually kind of do, instead of they're always over here, because in the cartoon it was just the Grinch that kind of realized, hey, it's not just about the whole thing, and it's not about the presents and stuff. But here, everyone starts to come to realize that. I feel like I'm getting too deep into the Grinch, but here's another thing about it that it kind of talks about is, you know, being, you know, kind to people and stuff, because everyone hates the Grinch. No one even wants to talk to him or give him a chance or anything. They just persecute him the whole time. But Cindy Lou, who, you know, she just sees that there can be good in him, and she is nice and changes him. You know, and I think that's actually a really good message too. You know, just because someone's made mistakes in their life doesn't mean you need to completely shun them up onto Mount Crumpet. You know, you can see they're still good in him. That was a little too deep for The Grinch, with starring Jim Carrey. Other than that, the movie's actually kind of a dumb movie. And I feel like if Jim Carrey wasn't in this movie, this would probably be already forgotten by now. People would have been like, oh yeah, that Grinch. Remember that time they remade The Grinch in live action? Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. Anywho. But with Jim Carrey in it, now everybody's like, oh, we gotta watch The Grinch on Christmas. So I feel like without Jim Carrey, you wouldn't even remember this movie right now. I wouldn't even be talking about it. So Jim Carrey really made this movie, I think. Because other than Jim Carrey, there's nothing really that memorable about it. You know, it's already a story we know. It's already, you know, it's not like they did anything amazing in the movie. I mean, other than some pretty good makeup. So I think it's basically just Jim Carrey that people like about this movie. I mean, there's other things to like about it and enjoy, but, you know, no one would remember it if it wasn't for him. So overall, I enjoy the movie because I've grown up with it. If you saw this movie for the first time and you're above the age of like 18, I bet you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. You might be like, there's some funny jokes in there every once in a while, but it wasn't that good. If you're like a young kid, you'll definitely enjoy it. So overall, I'll recommend it because, you know, it's Christmas time. A lot of people like this movie, so you should at least watch it. You know, not everybody's gonna enjoy it because, you know, one man's toxic sludge is another man's potpourri. I don't know, it's some type of soup. But anyways, bye.